Hello, and welcome to another episode, a third episode of Hammer and Vajra podcast. I am here to discuss, hopefully for the final time, a few things. Primarily, an essay I just wrote called Hammer and Club. Further discussions of the pros and cons of syncretism and folkism. I will put on a display a cool picture that was a pendant of a Heracles club, and a comparison to the Thor's hammer, or the Mjolnir as we call it. I just want to go ahead and put this as a disclaimer. I'll disclaim this on the rest of my posts if I have to, or the rest of my time doing things, that I am not the most linguistical person, if you want to use that word. I am not a master at 50 languages. I have studied quite a bit of languages. I do speak Japanese quite well. I have been studying French, German, a little bit of Old Norse, Old English, Sanskrit, some Persian. This doesn't make me a perfectionist at pronouncing these things. So I will try to pronounce things as well as I can. That's a disclaimer going on out from every episode after this, and any interview I do. I will try my best, and also try to just present things in a natural way. So basically, I will display a picture showing that, and in the Roman spread across the empire, there were discovered many amulets shaped like wooden clubs. These were found in Roman areas, in Cologne, in Germany, and different Roman British areas. Some of them had more Celtic motifs to them. Tacitus was quoted as saying, they say that Heracles or Hercules too once visited them, and when going into battle, they sing of him first of all heroes. Many studies as of late have revealed that even more club imagery were made of antler, bone, wood, and even metals, precious metals that aren't just gold or copper. They have been found in graves on belts and necklaces and pendants. The question is this what was to evolve into the Thor's hammer, or the Donner's hammer in the West, maybe mixing with sort of the axe motif that would become the Pagan's axe, or the Finnish axe. One of the things I was looking at with that is we do have evidence that the hammer and axe pendants from Germany to the Slavic and Finnish were merged into the cross over time. Speculations regarding this being a synthesis of religion or a way to hide one's faith have been made. What we do know is that the god corresponding to these symbols all have a similar function and were adored by the Celto-Germanic and Slavic peoples. Sometimes they were seen to be the chieftain, actually, or at least the princely deity, son of the chief god, and protector of the people. For one to deny these connections is to remain in ignorance. This goes to include that of the Vedic Indra, the Persian Veretharanga, I don't pronounce that right, Ragna, and possibly the Celtic Tyrannus or the Dagda, to some extent. Pardon my horrible pronunciation. That Persian word just threw me off. In general, these are the striker, the thunder, the princely son. If I know that triggers some people to have them put in a category, but that is the best way when you're doing comparative mythology and religion. If you've read any of my books, you know much of what I'm talking about here, and that I am just tracing back over old material. That's sort of not the point of this whole discussion. There's this thing that is rather a knee-jerk reaction going around in certain pagan groups online, and honestly, in real life, some of the major pagan groups that I am associated with or follow. In real life, actual groups, not just online in the Ethernet, have a problem with the word syncretic faith, and my use of the term. Sadly, I'm agreeing with many of these people regarding certain things. I understand their feelings. Many of them came to paganism straight from Christianity. So unlike myself, who has been a Vajrayana Buddhist for a long time before adapting my own folk faith and European studies to it, these people left Christianity recently and had good reasons. For some of them, it was due to more terrible reasons than others. In addition, they see a rise in Abrahamic faiths in politics and the influx of Islamic factions via migration, and thereby they have a fear of these influences, causing a slippery slope back down to the Abrahamic-like monotheism and a threat to their folk faith and heritage, which they've worked so hard to reclaim. And rightfully so. Some of these people using and abusing syncretic concepts are up to no good and are presenting them wrongly. However, it is because of this that the newer pagans end up with skewed perspectives. They come up with pseudo-intellectual ideas about the gods being just metaphors, or even a humanistic ideas that the gods are placenta and DNA only. As I have pointed out, these comparisons and allegorical understandings aren't inherently bad. In fact, they are good. They can present someone with the beginnings of grasping the concept of seeing divinity everywhere and approaching it in a non-duality. The issue resides where they take these metaphoric allegories and archetypes and restrict the divine to only being these and only being able to be understood through them. The thing is, often people in these circles, or with this spiritual baggage of sorts, deny the German, Slavic, and Celtic faiths that we understand and know having they deny them coming about after having the Turkic Hunnic interactions, after absorption of the Celts and Uralic peoples, and even regarding the Celts, it is after the merging with the old Europeans. Furthermore, the Greco-Romans had direct impact on the Celts, Germanics, and later Slavs, and they themselves were highly Egyptian and Mesopotamian influenced. All of these groups have contributed to one another in an Indo-European and Old European web that is beautiful and has unique expressions respective to that group. The comparisons of these will result in obvious connections and common origins as well as distinct differences. The same will obviously be connected through related groups across Eurasia to a degree. I find it hypocritical when I see people who will post or present information about all of these aspects of Europe acting as if they are all equally European paganism, but then vehemently be angry that one focuses on Indo-European connections primarily and how they correlate together. This makes less sense. This makes even less sense to me when you see someone who isn't a non-European, but a blend of Indo-Europeans, but denying cross-comparison and expressions. Many Germanics and Slavs have Celtic blood and vice versa, or a mixture of three, and maybe even some Mediterranean. Are we going to do a purity spiral of our own people to the point where someone who isn't a certain percentage of certain European group is forced to express their faith only through one set and cannot compare to understand the gods in their full expression? Sure, if you want to be like Varg, then go ahead. I'm not saying accept anyone across the world as your tribe, far from it. But what the tribes and ethnicities are now are sacred and should see each other in a form of unity, especially when we are not the majority in the world. The thing is, I don't want to be like Christians, who point out that the old Europeans and pagans were so syncretic that they converted. When they say things like, if you want to be like your ancestors and really reconstruct your faith, then you will convert and accept the white Christ. Because we know this dismisses the true fact that many, if not most, were converted by force. However, it is true to the detriment of syncretic approach that accepting the white Christ or Germanic heroic Christ as equal within the pantheon helped lead to conversion. I'm not advocating for such dribble whatsoever. However, I am not reconstructing a faith that is exactly like some middle-aged version of what my ancestors believed. I never present myself as such either. Instead, I am presenting a well-rounded faith that plugs the gaps, keeps one's identity, and still defends against Abrahamics and atheism. I don't personally promote a syncretic Indo-European faith to all peoples wholesale, but as a tool to use to understand your own relation and related folk more within the greater scheme of faith, thereby filling in those gaps. I will say Reconstruction and Reconstructionism is great. The more we find out about the more authentic one, the more we find out, the more authentic one can be. But we are already doing very authentic rituals and practice now by actually living the faith and being devoted. Furthermore, the more that is discovered from Reconstruction, the more we notice the similarities between Europe, Eurasia, and primarily Indo-European groups. I myself rely on and listen intently to those whose goal it is to reconstruct and study the archaeology, genetics, linguistics, and customs of our ancestors. Ones such as the Chad pastoralist, Fortress of Luch, Tom Roswell from Survive the Jive, Scott T. Shell, my good friend Malcolm Stark, as well as many others. I suggest you look them up. Look up Survive the Jive, look up Tom, watch videos from him, Fortress of Lou, go to Instagram, look up the Chad pastoralist, and then look up Scott T. Shell on YouTube. All of these guys have great videos. And their works are the Reconstructionism that I think we should rely upon, especially in the different fields and different respective understandings, particularly within the both Indo-European but also the Old European, things that I'm not focused on. It is their calling to rediscover and reconstruct the world. It is my calling to compare, contrast, learn, and apply to a living, fulfilling, and expressive faith that I hope will be, to many who are approaching spirituality and divine, very helpful. I'm not saying we should have a one world or pan-Eurasian faith. However, to deny any synchronism is not only leaving you with gaping holes and incomplete approach, it leaves you vulnerable to be stamped out. Sometimes you have to adapt. Now, I 100% see that we need to be folk-centered and stand up to Islam and Abrahamics, but you can't do so as just a small tribe of ex-pagans who refuse to see commonalities with other brothers and will then remain a small faction that will be destroyed, assimilated, or overtaken. So I'll put another picture up. It was a image that has where Dharma Nation, I'm just calling them out, has a thing saying, do offerings to God also satisfy the devas? It's a little crass of a reply I put on my Instagram saying that no, it doesn't. Also, stop misusing the word God because that's monotheistic and you're being subversive. The use of the word God, I'll go on with this for a little bit. While my Instagram story I posted is above is a bit edgy, is aptly how I feel regarding the situation. While I have explained the concept of big G God in my books and other posts, I think I need to clarify for those who do not understand. The Abrahamic concept of God has taken the core understanding of Brahman, Monad, the inner self to which Odin sacrifices himself, the synthetic, and synthesized them with Yahweh plus Deus. While the approach to the highest form of God as the Lord, Bhagavad, Dharmakaya, Ond plus Odr, or the Allfather has been used by many, even in my works, to explain the highest tangible understanding of this all-pervasive divinity. Prescribing a personality to this highest of interconnections is a mistake. Giving a physical form to describe the most sacred but still most mundane ways is so that mankind can perceive the greater and inner divine. So the form is only to perceive, not to be seen as an actual personality, an actual core God. However, it isn't one being or one God to a faction to which a faction can name their God and make everyone bow down to their concept. It is all-pervasive and exists within highest divinities and even within you to a degree. For example, if one denies Odin, Luch, Rudra, and Zeus their rightful divine existence to say they are lesser than a greater one, they are incorrect. Also, if one says that the Godhead figure, who is the highest approach to this greater divine, is the only one worthy of worship, of worship, as Dharma Nation is doing with their God, as they use the Abrahamic style of God, or Narayana, then you are actually denying the divinity that is within other expressions of the divine. I believe there is a hierarchy in the heavens, just like there is in the physical plane. Life reflects the gods and vice versa. However, denying Frigga, Thor, or like Parvati, Indra, their sacred divinity is its level of importance to you and to the cosmos is a mistake and will not result in a healthy and fully fulfilled spiritual life. The Christians like to point out that Christ came to intercede for the Father. Interestingly, I do agree with this point to where I feel that one shouldn't approach the Godhead first if they haven't sought to please the other divinities well. More often than not, the chief God may not have specific plans for you or connection with you that a lesser divinity does. By not approaching and paying honor to them, you are missing out. Also, to further elaborate on the aspect of connecting with the Godhead and beyond in the inner divine and all-encompassing one, for lack of a better term, I'll point out that there is no practice I have encountered in my initiations as well as studies where the efforts to transcend don't require one to think all aspects and emanations of the divine, as well as see the divine in multiplicity and as interconnected. The efforts, time, and practice it takes for one to achieve this connection with this greater G God isn't some small offering to Krishna or prayer to Christ, but a lifetime of dedication that may not even be accomplishable within this lifetime. The efforts produce good merit and will result in a better incarnation that is closer to the divine next time. In my opinion, anyone who is selling you a get enlightened / get saved quick scheme without encouraging work and proper devotion, study, practice are snake oil salesmen and should be seen as such. In the same way, many of those who tell you that your folk gods, ancestors, and heroes are not worthy of being venerated or are sufficiently venerated by their one solution of a god is confused at best and subversive at worst. Yet again, I hope this clears up some confusion, both on where I stand, but also in how I think we should work together for a brighter future and stronger standing. I think some differences of opinion are important, as well as different approaches to the gods, as not every approach will be correct for each person. I also plan for this to be the last time I speak on the subject, though I know it will come up again and again. I feel that I have been beating a dead horse in trying to explain this to others instead of focusing on my comparative Indo-European studies, more in-depth theology or cultural studies, and just enjoying faith and God and the gods and expressing it to you. So to wrap up, I don't want to discuss on this much anymore. I have more videos planned for you all. I think for episode 3, this kind of rolls out and finishes the series of what a syncretic faith is, how to see the divine, how to see the gods. Of course, I can take suggestions from people. I'd like to take suggestions from people, questions. If you have a topic you want to discuss, if you would like me to delve deeper into a topic, I have previous studies that I've done where I've done just a broad overview of one religion or another, though there are a lot of YouTubers who have broken down certain religions and their basic aspects. I tend to like to do it by a comparative of their pantheons, especially within Indo-European paganism. I can do more videos on Buddhism, and of course comparing and contrasting different things with Germanic, Celtic, Slavic, etc. Thank you very much, everyone, for the support. I've got a lot of more subscribers than I thought I would have, and I'm just glad that everyone who is following me with a mind of approaching this as a potential way that they like to express their faith, or just to learn about a greater understanding of Indo-European faith, and hopefully, even I'll bring on some people to discuss connections to older European and even maybe Mediterranean and Mesopotamian connections. I hope that all of that will be something that will spark some interest in everyone, and then allow them to reflect upon it. I thank you all for supporting the project. Hammer and Vajra out.